Before students can learn, they need to feel safe. How does DoDEA create safe learning environments for students? What tools are available to school administrators and teachers to help? Find out more in this edition of The Chat Room. Welcome to The Chat Room. I'm Frank O'Gara, your host today. DoDEA is committed to providing a safe and secure working environment and learning environment for all students and staff. The DoDEA Safe Schools program is a valuable resource designed to help school leaders stay current on the latest information regarding safety and security. With me in the studio today are two consultants and valuable resources for DoDEA on safe schools. Bob Michel co-founded the Safe Schools program in 1995. A former Army colonel, he brings a lifetime of strategic and tactical expertise to the Safe Schools program. Sarah Markel is the managing editor of the DoDEA Safe Schools newsletter and writes about school violence prevention programs. She's a former English teacher and grew up in the military. A warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here, and you're not certainly strangers to DoDEA. I mean, you are certainly part of the team that supports us on a daily basis now, but you've been involved with us for years. Sarah, you were a student with us at one time, weren't you?
Yes, I started my education at Patch Barracks.
Great. And Bob?
Well, I'm afraid I was a dependent student also prior to the establishment of the DODS and the DDES schools. But my daughters went to DODS schools when we were at SHAPE.
Great. Well, you've been you're definitely part of the family then as well. And I think it's important to note because it's absolutely critical that we have people who are working with us on a daily basis who understand what life is like in military communities, particularly in our overseas communities, but also in our stateside communities, but that understand the pressures that are on military families and the concerns that they have on a daily basis. So we're thrilled to have you as part of the team. You know, I mean, I think a basic premise today is that safe and secure learning environments are absolutely critical if our children are going to learn in school. And we've made that, I think, a foundation in everything that we do. In our community strategic plan, one of our guiding principles is the establishment of a safe learning environment, safe and secure learning environment. So let's begin today just by talking a little bit about the Safe Schools program, what the purpose of it is. Bob, would you like to share that with us?
Well, certainly. That goes back to the foundation of our program back in the mid-90s. As it applies to DoDEA, it's to provide the administrators with the means of establishing and maintaining a safe and secure learning environment, not only for the students but for the staff.
You know, principals have a lot on their plate. They're instructional leaders, they're managers in our schools. Do we also expect them to be security experts?
We don't. We started this back with the National Association of Secondary School Principals with a focus basically in those days being for public schools, and what we needed in that day and age to provide principals was a means or a toolbox, if you will, for being able to develop or create a safe learning environment, but then also to maintain it once it's been created.
We like to think of the program along those lines as sort of a buffet. We offer a core fundamental of quality, high protein, good carbohydrates that are the core of the program. These are the handbook, the trainings we've done. And then because we recognize that no two schools are the same, we offer an array of safety and security side dishes from which administrators can choose what's best for their school.
Well, and I think we can get into some of those hopefully later as we're talking, but one of the things that really comes to mind for me is that, you know, safety and security issues are constantly changing. And there are new and emerging concerns that we have in schools. So how do we keep principals current on these topics?
That's our job, to stay current with not only what's happening, but what are best practices in terms of dealing with what's happening in the schools. And our domain is not just DoDEA, DODS, and DDES schools. Our domain is also the public school system throughout our United States. So we bring our experiences with those schools into the DoDEA system. And Sarah works on a day-to-day basis keeping current and knowledgeable, and she'd be the best person to, I think, expound on this.
You know, Frank, there is so much information out there, and we recognize that principals simply cannot keep track of the thousands of prevention programs. The studies, something like 50 to 60 studies come out every week documenting various aspects of student well-being and mental health. That's all we do. We look at those studies, we assess, we listen to what counselors and administrators are looking for, so that when individuals call our helpline, we're able to actually give them information that will help them keep their schools safe.
How about some of the strategies that you use to reach principals and to keep them informed? Want to talk a little bit about those?
Well, in addition to the handbook and the trainings, we have a newsletter which comes out every month. And we try and keep that fresh and interesting, lots of great information, so that principals aren't just doing a training and then forgetting about security. They're constantly thinking about and being educated about the latest best practices in use in DoDEA and in U.S. public schools.
And are there other strategies, Bob, that you employ that?
Well, the fundamental strategy is to be current and helpful, and to do as much work for our educators as we can to help them do what they have to do. I sympathize with the principals, not unlike a commander. They're in charge of everything that happens or fails to happen in their domain, as commanders are in theirs. And they are, I'm certainly well-intentioned with a daily agenda, but as soon as the first telephone call comes in, their day goes in different directions than they've otherwise planned. So if they have somebody they can call upon to do some research, or to give them some best practice ideas, or to share some lessons learned from maybe another school, we hope they would come to us to help them in that regard.
Absolutely, absolutely. You also mentioned the commander, okay, and how important is that, that partnership, that relationship between the principal and the commander when it comes to creating safe and secure school environments?
Well, it's extraordinarily important. It's a luxury that those in the DODS and particular, but also DDES systems enjoy that their public school counterparts do not enjoy. And it's a resource, and it's the backbone of support for their school on that installation, or even if it's off the installation. But they have that support, that community support.
It's great, it's great. You mentioned, Sarah, the Safe Schools Handbook, too. Can you tell us a little bit about that handbook?
Well, the Safe Schools Handbook is really a fabulous document, because it takes school security, it breaks it down into steps that any administrator can take. You don't have to be a safety and security expert. It's an analytical approach to school safety that is all-encompassing. We look at every aspect of school safety, recognizing that every school is different. So what it allows an administrator to do is create a customized plan for his or her school. Not something that other schools are using, but just for their school, for the issues that they face for their own population. And the feedback we get is tremendous. People appreciate not having to go out and get the equivalent of a master's degree in safety and security. They're able to keep their schools safe and still focus on the things that matter.
Now, what kind of coordination would a principal have to do when they put that plan together at a local school? Because certainly, you know, schools aren't, you know, isolated islands in a community. So who would they coordinate with when putting those kinds of plans together?
Well, they have to coordinate with their counterparts on the post or the installation, or if they're off, hopefully the community. Particularly if it's in a community, they would hopefully have host nation support in some regards, especially if there's an incident and there's emergency response that has to be relied upon. But school liaison officers, district safety and security officers, the command staff, certainly the information office. If anything goes public, they're going to need help from somebody at that installation and get them out of the limelight. So there's a host of coordination points of contact that they need to concern themselves with.
And the newsletters that you mentioned, Sarah, where can principals and others who are interested in this topic find those newsletters?
Well, they're posted on the DoDEA website. Principals receive it via email once a month, and any other interested parties can send an email to our Safe Schools email address. And that's also, by the way that principals and administrators send us questions. and we get quite a few people asking for a little bit of help with this or an answer to this question. And we're just thrilled to both answer those questions and let those inform the articles we write in the newsletter, so we can share that wealth of information.
Great. So if there are issues that they're experiencing right now that may not have been in a recent issue, you can work something up to benefit other principals as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things I'm trying very hard to do is share success stories. There are some tremendously creative and innovative people in DoDEA doing things on their own to keep those schools safe. We want to share the word to inspire others, if nothing else.
Great. Now, beyond the handbook and the newsletter, are there other resources that are part of our Safe Schools approach that are out there for folks, or other strategies that you want to comment on?
There are, and there are a handful. Sarah works diligently on getting prevention programs identified, understood, and then the information given to potential users. Counselors love to learn the latest and greatest about prevention programs, and Sarah works with agencies and organizations such as the American School Counselors here in Old Town, and other singular points of contact in order to get the latest information that we can pass on to our...
And we're looking for high quality information. There is so much on the internet. It's easy for counselors or busy principals to sort of get lost in that. And what we're trying to do is filter out some of the fly-by-night operations that are offering less high quality material.
Absolutely, and I think it's great that we have a resource that can sift through all of that for them and find the information that's pertinent and that's useful, okay, and reliable as well for them. Okay, what's ahead what's on your radar scopes? What are you looking at when we think about Safe Schools for the immediate future for DoDEA?
Well, we want to grow the program for the consumer, obviously. So we need to do what we're doing, continue to do that as well as we possibly can. But I think there are some potential for value added, and there are a couple of areas we'd like to concentrate on. Cybersecurity would certainly be one of them, and that's a subject that we can take on in the newsletter, so we can use that avenue of communicating cybersecurity best practices on a monthly basis. We would look to update the anti-terrorism materials, which we've worked on in the past. We would anticipate possibly next year that we'd have another round of training for all of the principals and other staff that can get to the training, and we would go to the field to do that. We would export that. And I think if we can make use of technology to the point where we can have some online activities, this chat room is a wonderful opportunity for us to get the subject in front of people. Well, so we'd like to take advantage in those areas for sure.
Good. Well, it's our pleasure. It's a good way to get the word out. And I think that we need to look at other ways that we can help keep this out in front of principals all the time. You mentioned cybersecurity. I mean, it's a big issue.
It's a big issue, and a lot of people aren't talking about it. When we're doing the research, it's a select handful of experts sending the same message. And we're trying very hard to really empower principals, educators, even parents to keep kids safe online. The key is education, and what we're noticing is that a lot of people are very intimidated by the technology. And we feel it's our mission to help people feel empowered to keep kids safe online.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of sustainment for us, this is safe and secure schools, where I mentioned our, part of the community strategic plan, the guiding principles that we have. It really is something that is woven into the backdrop of our daily operation. And so training or any of those other things, I think, are absolutely critical for us. Okay. Well, we greatly appreciate you coming in today. Maybe we ought to come back sometime and just talk about either anti-terrorism or cybersecurity, where there's such big issues that are on the radar there. We appreciate everything that you do as part of Team DoDEA to help our principals and our administrators around the globe to ensure that the environments that we have in our schools are safe and secure. So thank you so much for coming in today. Okay.
Thank you again. It's our pleasure.
Thank
Indeed
you,
it is.
Frank.
Great. We'll see you again sometime. Okay. You can find more information on our Safe Schools program by going to our website. Thank you for joining us today. See you next time in the chat room.